Okay, so I'm going to show how to make Ukrainian Easter eggs, because some people have been kind of interested in learning how to do this, and it takes some doing, but it's not really too hard. And what I'm going to show is what they are, how to do it, and some of the supplies that you need to do it. So Pysanka, or Pysank, it's actually Pysanka and Pysanky, like that, I think. It's how you pronounce it. Pysanky is plural, and Pysanka is the singular for Ukrainian Easter egg. So then if you get somebody, going, "What the heck are you saying?" then you know what they are and what to call them. So this is a Pysanky, Pysanka, and it is basically a decorated egg, and they can get complicated, or they can be really simple. This one is a more simple design, and this is a very complex design with a lot of colors. I am in no way an authority on how to make these. There are some excellent makers of these eggs, and who use very traditional Ukrainian patterns. Some of my patterns are not traditional. Some of them are. There are, for the traditional patterns, there are meanings behind a lot of the designs. So, anyway, so I'll get started on some of the things that you need, and let me show you really quickly how this works. This is sort of a partially done egg, and all of that on there is wax. And you can see that I've done a little bit of a pencil drawing, and I have covered it with hot wax. And it's basically working backwards, and with dyes, wax covering up your egg and the parts of the egg that you don't want the dye to go. So if you want a major part of your egg to be white, you'll do what I did here, which is draw your pattern, and you're going to fill in a lot with wax. And it kind of goes like this. It goes white, yellow, orange, red, purples. Just that's the order in which you would do a multicolored egg in with the dyes. So one thing you will need is wax. You can order this online. You don't want to use candle wax. I have used candle wax before because sometimes it melts. I use a candle, and sometimes it melts into my own wax, and I just end up using it. But candle wax is often too clear and doesn't have enough pigment. This has a lot of pigment in it, so that you can really see what you're covering up. You need a pencil for drawing on your egg, and it's really good to have one of these kind of white erasers. Eggs are kind of tough. When you draw on them, they sometimes smear the pencil lines, and sometimes erasers, like pink erasers or really difficult erasers, will leave black smudges on your egg, and it's kind of tough to work through that. All of that will end up going away once you dye the egg, but when you're trying to draw on there and you're really trying to be exact with your design, it's not helpful to have a crummy eraser. So if you can use like these are really cheap Papermate, well, they're not that cheap, but they're a little bit cheap Papermate pens, but they have those white erasers on them that are really nice. and to get rid of some of that smudginess. Or you can buy an artist's eraser. You need a candle. I'm gonna have to move some things around so I can find what I'm talking about. I use a plate, and I found these little candles at, I think Fred Meyer. And they are Hanukkah candles. But you can use any candle you want. I just bought them because you can get a lot of them. I dropped some wax down on this plate, usually by heating the candle and dropping wax, but I already have wax down there. So I'm going to melt it so I can stick my candle onto this plate and it'll stay steady. And stick that on there. Sometimes I have to do it a couple times just to get it to really stay. I use one of these. This is so handy. I hate matches. I hate fire. I cannot light a match without freaking myself out and burning myself. So I use and that's because these hands don't do what I want them to do. So I use this thing and it's awesome. Then you need what is called a sitka. I think that is how you pronounce it. It's spelled S-I-T-K-A, and it holds wax, basically. You heat it with your flame. You light your candle, like that, and you heat it. And once you get it hot, you don't want to, if you stick it straight in, you'll get soot all over the bottom of the sitka, and no wax will flow out of it. So you just kind of want to heat it up a little bit. I do it on the edge there, and I keep the tip away, or just hold it above like that. And then you scoop your wax into the bowl of the sitka. And mine, it's still not quite hot enough. There we go. And then it just comes right up like that. So that's the sitka, and you will draw on your egg with this. There are different types that you can get. This is a really old-fashioned, like, original piece of dowel with a tiny little silver cone on it, wrapped with wire, and you put the wax in there. I don't like it. I don't like it because it's just, to me, it's sort of, I don't know, clunky. But other people do like these, and they are perfectly fine to use and good to use. This is a medium sitka and a fine sitka. So, you're going to get thicker lines, and here you're going to get finer lines. And I like to use both of them. I use them interchangeably depending on the design on my egg. So one of the first things, I'm sorry, let me show you more. There's more. So these are the basic things you're going to need to get started. Then you have dyes. Dyes don't last forever. They last about a year, which is pretty cool. Make a lot of eggs with these dyes in a year. But they, like this package right there, they do tend to, if you don't make it right away, they can go bad. Eat through plastic, do other types of things. Although, this could be my setting powder ate through that. Anyway, these little dyes come on, you can buy them online. And they come in a little packet, and they make enough for you to dye a ton of eggs. But you don't ever want to breathe this in, and you don't want to use pots that you eat in to boil this dye, because that's toxic. And the other thing you will get often in these like kits that you can buy, or you just buy them separately. This is called setting powder, and it's also somewhat toxic. and you don't want to breathe it in, you don't want to handle it a lot. You just want to put a little pinch inside of your dye and boiling water. Hang on 1 second. And then you need vinegar. Each of these packets has directions on it, and wherever you order these from, I'm sure they will give you directions on which dye needs how much vinegar. Most dyes only need like a tablespoon, I think it is, yeah, 1 tablespoon of vinegar. But there are a few out there that need a little bit more to set properly. They don't all set properly. This stuff, I forgot to say, this is setting powder, and it basically makes your dye more even and longer lasting. If you don't have to use it, but you probably should. I have used it many times, and I have also sometimes not used it, and there's definitely a difference. It just doesn't last as long. So I'll show you maybe one difference here. Like, this is the difference between what a setting dye in, or setting substance that you put in the dye. It's really nice and dark dye. And this is kind of more what it looks like when that doesn't happen. You know, it just faded. It's not even. Doesn't look as nice. That's also what happens if you keep your dyes for a long time like I do. And then I don't replace them. And then I try to dye with them. It doesn't work out very well. And I'll have to like leave them for really long periods of time. Your dye should work within just a few minutes. You don't have to put it in there for a long time to get a good color usually. Unless it's you know, sometimes lighter colors don't work very, lighter blues or greens don't dye as strongly, so you might have to leave it in there a little longer. Okay, so the other thing is how to store your dyes. In the past, I was just taught to store them in jars, but each one of these dyes has a certain amount of vinegar in it, and that vinegar tends to break down jars. The metal rings around jars. So I use canning jars and spaghetti sauce jars. And those tend to rust over time, and you'll end up having to get rid of your dye because that rust goes into your dye and it just contaminates everything. So I bought these little containers, and they are super cool because I can just dip my eggs in there pretty easily. I would prefer if this was a little bit smaller and taller. Just a little taller, so that my egg is more easily submersible. I don't have to put as much dye in it. Although, honestly, this is just as much dye and water and vinegar that you use per packet for the instructions. So I haven't added anything more to it. You can't. You'll dilute your dye. So if you can get a little bit smaller container, that's helpful. It's a good idea to label your container and write down what your dye number is and what color, what the name of the color, and that way you know what to order again if you really like that color. If you're like, oh, I don't like that color, I'm not going to order that again. So that's a good idea. So I have like a whole bucket of these dyes in here where I store them, and that's a good way to store them. Honestly, to just start this out, all you really need, is a simple design and even just one dye color. So you don't have to get too overwhelmed with it. Or you can go online, you can get like a small kit that just has some colors. Because it can seem kind of overwhelming to think, oh my God, do I need to buy like 20 different dyes? No, this is just stuff that I have accumulated over a few years of doing this. Then a heat gun is helpful, or a hair dryer, or a candle. Because in the end, what you're going to do, some people will hold this over the candle and they will wipe with wherever my paper towel went, and they'll wipe with a paper towel all that wax off of there after it's been dyed. I really like the heat gun better because it's more efficient and it's faster. So, this is a heat gun. You can get these at a craft store. A whole bunch of craft stores have these. Get them online. Or you can use a hair dryer on a low setting. You know, you don't want to blow the egg out of your hand or anything. But you're going to have to hang on to it if you use that hair dryer because sometimes it'll get kind of crazy. Be careful when you use these. These will burn your fingers. So you have to be kind of careful how long you're going to hold it onto your egg. But you basically hold that little guy about this distance here. You don't want to get too much closer. Just kind of move it around and then wipe the wax off. And you have to wipe it several times to get all of that off of there. Then, let's see, string. I like to use gold and silver thread to put on my eggs when I'm done with them. I basically seal the top with a tiny little dot of wax and seal the string onto it with that wax, and then you can hang it that way. You're also going to need, totally forgot, and this is what I should have told you in the beginning, a very sharp pin or needle. And basically what you do, there are easier ways to do this, and I know that people have like other ways of getting into their eggs with a certain like reaming tool, but I use a very, very sharp tipped pin and just slowly screw it in on one spot, just adding slight pressure, not too hard. And then I do it on both sides, and like that's a wax covered hole right there. And I literally just blow it right into a cup and blow out all of the egg substance. So here's the thing with that. One, some people don't like to do that ahead of time because your egg will float, because once you seal it with wax, you're going to want to seal it with wax at the end. Your egg will float in the dye, and it's hard, and you have to sit there and hold your egg down. But if your dyes are really good and they're, strong dyes, you won't have to hold it for that long. If you're just trying this out and you want to use regular Easter egg dye, like the kind you get in the grocery store, you'll just have to hold it down for about 5 to 10 minutes just to make sure it's really, really getting the dye in there. Because I did practice that way just to kind of see how it worked before I ordered everything. Then, let's see, the other thing is then that some people will, because they're so good at this, they've done it for years, and they're like from the Ukraine. They just know things. Their grandmothers were doing this. Their grandmothers' grandmothers were doing this. They've been doing it forever. They will leave that egg stuff in there, and they'll get it all done, and it's beautiful. And at the end, they're like, I'm gonna take a chance and blow this egg out of there. It'll be fine. Yeah, well, I did that, and I broke my egg because I'm not as good at it. So I think once you get better at it, it's a good idea to leave the egg stuff in there because you don't have to sit there and push your eggs down so much and wait. But if you're new to it and you're new to blowing eggs, don't do it. You'll just destroy your beautiful eggs, and you'll be so frustrated that you won't even want to do this anymore. But, that's everybody's, however you feel about it, your choice. So those are some of the things that you'll need for doing these eggs. And so what I will do is I'll kind of show you